Jake Martinez was having a perfectly normal day on Space Station Delta 9, right until it wasn't. The maintenance worker had been fixing a broken air filter in Section C when his datapad buzzed with an urgent maintenance request from the alien residential area. "Just another clogged filter," he muttered, grabbing his toolbox. The station housed over 200 different species, and each had their own environmental needs. Jake had gotten used to the strange sounds, smells, and sights during his 2 years working here. But nothing had prepared him for what waited in Residential Pod 7. A tall, crystalline figure stood in the hallway, its translucent body catching the light and creating small rainbows on the metal walls. Jake recognized her species, a sylphid, but had never worked closely with one before. Her outer layer, usually clear as glass, was clouded and dulled in patches. "Oh, thank the stars, a human maintenance worker." Her voice chimed like tiny bells. "Please, I need your help. I've been waiting for weeks." Jake checked his datapad. "I got a maintenance request, but it doesn't specify the problem." "What seems to be the issue, ma'am?" The sylphid wrung her crystalline hands together, creating a soft, tinkling sound. I need to be cleaned." She shifted nervously, the cloudy patches on her surface becoming more visible. "My name is Aura, and I've asked the medical bay, but they don't have the right equipment. Nobody will help me." Jake felt his face grow hot. "Cleaned? I'm sorry, but I don't think that's part of maintenance services. Maybe you could. Please." Aura's voice rose in desperation. "On my world, cleaning is a normal medical procedure. We need assistance every 30 days to maintain our outer layer. Without it, we can develop serious health problems." She gestured to the cloudy patches. "See, it's already starting." Jake rubbed the back of his neck, uncomfortable. "Look, I understand you need help, but this seems like something more personal than fixing air filters." Aura's crystalline form dimmed slightly. "You humans always think that. But for us, it's like..." She paused, searching for the right words. "Like when you go to a teeth cleaner." "Yes, that's it. A dental hygienist. Nothing personal about it at all." Jake looked at his datapad again, then at Aura's clouded surface. She did seem genuinely distressed, and if this was really a health issue, let me at least check the station's species manual about sylphids. A quick search revealed that Aura was telling the truth. Sylphids required regular maintenance of their outer layer, which acted as both skin and a vital organ. Without proper cleaning, they could develop serious complications. "Why haven't you contacted the Sylphid Medical Center on Proxima Station?" Jake asked, still reading through the manual. "It's a 3-week journey," Aura explained miserably, "and I'm not due for transfer for another 2 months. Please, I know it might seem strange to you, but this is normal for my people. We just..." She made a soft, crystalline sound that might have been embarrassment. "We didn't expect humans to react so oddly about it." Jake took a deep breath. The manual was clear. This was a legitimate medical need, no different from any other species-specific health requirement. His discomfort was purely cultural, and wasn't that exactly the kind of thing they were supposed to overcome on a multi-species station? "Okay," he said finally. "I'll help, but I'll need to research the proper procedure and maybe modify some of our cleaning equipment. I don't want to accidentally harm you." The change in Aura was immediate. Her crystalline form brightened, sending sparkles of light dancing across the hallway. "Thank you. Thank you so much. You humans really are as kind as they say." Jake couldn't help but smile, even as he wondered what exactly he'd gotten himself into. "Let's start with the basics. Tell me everything I need to know about sylphid maintenance." Behind them, a small group of station residents walked past, whispering and staring. Jake had a feeling the station gossip network was about to get very busy. The next morning found Jake sitting in his small quarters, surrounded by datapads and technical manuals. His morning coffee grew cold as he dove deeper into sylphid biology. Crystalline outer layer, specialized cleaning solutions. "Oh boy," he muttered, running a hand through his messy brown hair. The more he read, the more complex it seemed. Sylphids weren't just crystal-like beings. They were living crystals with very specific needs. His datapad chimed with a message from Aura. How is the research going? Jake looked at the mountain of information around him and typed back. It's going. Could we meet in Maintenance Bay 3 in an hour? I have some questions. When Aura arrived at the Maintenance Bay, Jake had already cleared a workspace and set up some basic cleaning equipment. She looked worse than yesterday. The cloudy patches had spread, making parts of her normally transparent body look like frosted glass. First things first, Jake said, trying to sound professional. The manual mentioned something called crystal resonance. What exactly is that? Aura's form sparkled as she laughed. It's simple. Our outer layer needs to vibrate at the right frequency during cleaning. Like how humans use ultrasound to clean things, but more gentle. She demonstrated by running a crystalline finger across her arm, producing a clear, bell-like tone. Jake grabbed a datapad and started taking notes. And the cleaning solution. The manual lists some pretty exotic ingredients. Yes, that's why the medical bay couldn't help. They don't stock luminate extract or stellar moss essence. Aura's voice turned worried. Without those, I don't know if. Hold on, Jake interrupted, an idea forming. These ingredients, they're all just different types of mineral solutions and natural cleaners, right? Maybe we could make something similar with what we have on the station. He pulled up the station's inventory on his datapad. We use specialized cleaning solutions for the station's crystal computer cores. They're not exactly the same, but the basic chemistry is similar. For the next hour, they went through every detail of the sylphid cleaning process. Jake learned that the procedure wasn't just about cleaning. It was about maintaining the delicate balance of their crystalline structure. Without regular maintenance, a sylphid's outer layer could become brittle and eventually crack. Okay, I think I've got a plan, Jake said finally. He pointed to a modified cleaning station he'd set up. We'll use a diluted version of our crystal core cleaner, combined with sonic vibrations from this maintenance tool. It should be close enough to your normal procedure. Aura examined the setup with interest. You really think this will work? Only one way to find out. Jake picked up the cleaning tool, ready to be my first patient. What followed was both educational and slightly disastrous. The first attempt with the cleaning solution was too strong, making Aura's surface briefly turn rainbow-colored. The second try didn't vibrate at the right frequency, producing an uncomfortable scratching sound that made them both wince. But by the third attempt, they were getting somewhere. Jake found the right balance of solution and vibration, and slowly the cloudy patches on Aura's surface began to clear. It's working, Aura exclaimed, examining her newly cleaned arm. It feels almost like home. Jake grinned, relief washing over him. Great, now we just need to do the rest of. But he gestured vaguely at all of her. Don't get embarrassed now, human, Aura chimed teasingly. You're officially a sylphid maintenance technician. The first human one, I think. As Jake continued the cleaning process, he noticed something interesting. Where the cloudy patches cleared, Aura's crystalline form didn't just become transparent. It seemed to glow slightly from within, like sunlight through clear ice. Is it supposed to do that? He asked, pointing to the gentle glow. Oh yes, that's how we know it's working properly. Our inner light shows when our outer layer is healthy. Aura's voice turned serious. Jake, thank you. I know this isn't your normal job, but you're helping more than you know. Little did Jake realize just how true those words would prove to be. Word spread quickly on Space Station Delta 9. Within days, Jake couldn't walk through any corridor without hearing whispers or seeing pointed looks. His fellow maintenance workers had started calling him the crystal cleaner behind his back. Just ignore them, Jake told himself as he made his way to his newly set-up cleaning station in Maintenance Bay 3. He'd spent the last week improving his equipment and technique. The modified sonic cleaner now had better controls, and he perfected his cleaning solution formula. When he arrived, Aura was already waiting, but she wasn't alone. Another sylphid stood with her, this one slightly shorter, and with a faint blue tint to their crystalline form. Jake. Aura's voice chimed happily. This is my friend Echo. He's been having the same problems I had. Echo's clouded surface was even worse than Aura's had been. Some patches were so dark they looked almost opaque. Is it true? Echo asked nervously. You found a way to help us. Before Jake could answer, the maintenance bay door opened again. Chief Engineer Thompson walked in, looking stern. Martinez, what's this I hear about you running some kind of alien spa in my maintenance bay? Jake felt his face grow hot. Sir, it's not like that. The sylphids have a serious medical need. A need that should be handled by medical staff, not my maintenance crew, Thompson interrupted. Aura stepped forward, her newly cleaned surface catching the light brilliantly. Sir, if I may explain, your medical bay isn't equipped for our needs. Jake has created a solution that works perfectly. Look. She gestured to her clear, glowing form, then pointed to Echo's clouded one. The difference was striking. Thompson frowned, looking between the two sylphids. And this is a real medical issue. Very real, Echo said quietly. Without proper maintenance, our outer layer can crack. If that happens, he didn't finish the sentence, but his dim glow spoke volumes. The chief engineer was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he sighed. Martinez, is this interfering with your regular duties? No, sir. I do this during my off hours and break time. And you're documenting everything. Safety procedures, chemical compositions. Jake grabbed his data pad and showed Thompson his detailed notes and safety protocols. The chief's eyebrows rose as he scrolled through the information. Well, Thompson said finally, I have to admit, this is thorough work. He looked at Jake with new respect. Just keep it contained to this bay, and make sure all proper safety measures are followed. And Martinez. Yes, sir. Good job thinking outside the box. That's what maintenance is really about, solving problems nobody else can figure out. After Thompson left, Jake turned to Echo. Ready to get started. The first cleaning might feel a bit strange, but Aura can tell you what to expect. As Jake worked on Echo's clouded surface, Aura explained the process. The solution might tingle a bit, but that's normal. The sonic vibrations help it penetrate the outer layer. There, see how it's starting to clear. Slowly, the dark patches on Echo's surface began to fade. Where they cleared, the same inner light that Aura had began to shine through. This feels right, Echo said with amazement. Just like the cleaners back home. Jake smiled, concentrating on his work. He'd gotten better at reading the subtle signs in the crystalline surfaces, knowing exactly where to adjust the sonic frequency or apply more solution. You know, Aura said thoughtfully, there are at least 20 more sylphids on this station, and I bet there are more on other human stations too. Jake paused in his work. 20 more, all needing maintenance. Yes, Echo confirmed. Most of us have been suffering in silence, too embarrassed to ask for help. But now, Jake looked at his cleaning station, then at his two sylphid friends. He had a feeling his life was about to get a lot more interesting. Well, he said with a grin, I guess I better stock up on cleaning solution. 1 month after Jake started helping the sylphids, he noticed something wrong. Despite regular maintenance, Aura's surface was becoming cloudy again much faster than it should. Even worse, she had developed tiny cracks near her joints. This isn't normal, Jake said, examining the cracks under a specialized scanner. He was working late in Maintenance Bay 3, which had become unofficially known as the Crystal Clinic among station residents. It's happening to all of us, Echo added from nearby. The blue-tinted sylphid had been helping Jake document the maintenance procedures. The cleaning helps, but something is making our condition worse. Jake frowned at his data pad, scrolling through weeks of notes. He'd been tracking every sylphid he helped, recording their condition before and after cleaning. The pattern was clear. They were all deteriorating faster than they should. When did this start? He asked, pulling up more data. Was it always like this on the station? Aura shook her head, the movement causing light to scatter through her crystalline form. No, it began about 3 months ago. We thought it was just normal deterioration at first. Jake's eyes widened as he remembered something. 3 months ago, that's when they adjusted the station's environmental controls to save power. He quickly pulled up the station's maintenance logs. They changed the humidity levels and air filtration settings. But why would that affect us? Echo asked, examining his own newly formed cracks. Jake was already running calculations on his datapad. Your bodies are basically living crystals, right? And crystals are sensitive to environmental conditions. He stopped suddenly, the color draining from his face. Oh no. What is it? Aura asked, her voice tinged with worry. The new environmental settings. They're perfect for most species, but for crystalline life forms. Jake showed them the data. The humidity is too low, and the air filtration is removing minerals you need from the air. It's like putting a human in a room with too little oxygen. Echo's glow dimmed noticeably. That explains why the maintenance helps temporarily but can't fix the underlying problem. Jake looked around the maintenance bay. He now had 15 regular Sylphid patients, and he knew there were more who hadn't come forward yet. This wasn't just a maintenance issue anymore. It was a station-wide health crisis. We need to take this to station management, he said firmly. This is affecting every Sylphid on board. Aura and Echo exchanged worried looks. The last time we tried to explain our needs to station authorities, they didn't take us seriously, Aura said quietly. They thought we were just being. What's the human word? Fussy. Jake stood up, determination written across his face. Then we'll make them take it seriously. I've got weeks of documented evidence showing the deterioration. Plus, he gestured to his modified maintenance equipment, proof that proper environmental conditions and maintenance can solve the problem. He started gathering his data pads and diagnostic tools. We need to make station management understand that this isn't about comfort, it's about survival. And if they don't listen? Echo asked. They'll listen, Jake said firmly. Because if they don't, I'll go straight to the Interspecies Medical Board. Pretty sure they'd be interested to hear about a station ignoring a serious health crisis affecting an entire species. Aura moved closer, her cracked surface catching the light. You'd do that, even if it meant risking your job. Jake looked at his friends, remembering how this had all started with a simple maintenance request. Now he was probably the leading human expert on Sylphid healthcare, even if his only qualification was being willing to help when no one else would. Of course I would, he said simply. That's what friends do. As if to emphasize the urgency of the situation, a small crack appeared on Aura's surface with a sound like breaking glass. They all stared at it in silence. Right, Jake said, gathering his evidence. We're fixing this. Now, the station's main conference room felt too small for the crowd that had gathered. Jake stood at the front, facing the station's management board, his datapad spread out before him. Behind him sat every Sylphid on the station, all 23 of them, their clouded and cracked surfaces telling a clear story of distress. Station Director Chen looked tired. Mr. Martinez, you called this emergency meeting claiming there's a health crisis. Explain. Jake took a deep breath. 3 months ago, the station changed its environmental settings. Since then, every Sylphid on board has experienced severe health degradation. I have the evidence right here. He started displaying graphs and medical scans on the room's main screen. These are their normal crystalline patterns, he said, showing clear, structured images. And this is what's happening now. The next images showed cracking patterns and clouded areas. Dr. Roberts from Medical Bay snorted. And you're qualified to make these medical assessments. You're a maintenance worker, Martinez. No, I'm not qualified, Jake admitted. But I am the only one who's been paying attention. The Medical Bay turned them away because you didn't have the right equipment, so they came to maintenance instead. He turned to Aura. "Would you mind showing them?" Aura stood up, and several board members gasped. In the bright conference room lights, the cracks in her surface were clearly visible, spreading like spider webs across her crystalline form. "This is happening to all of us," she said, her voice carrying a slight crack that hadn't been there before. "The maintenance help from Jake temporarily relieves the symptoms, but the station's environment is literally breaking us apart." Echo stood up next. Many of us were too embarrassed to speak up. We thought we were just being difficult. But look. He pointed to a particularly large crack on his arm. "This appeared just this morning." The room erupted in worried whispers. Director Chen raised a hand for silence. "Mr. Martinez, what exactly are you proposing?" Jake pulled up the environmental control data. "We need to adjust the humidity levels in the Sylphid residential areas and modify the air filtration system to stop removing essential minerals. I've already worked out the exact specifications." He sent the data to everyone's pads. "The cost of these modifications," someone started, "would be less than facing an investigation from the Interspecies Medical Board." Jake finished firmly. "This is a documented health crisis affecting an entire species on our station. We have a legal obligation to act." Director Chen studied the data carefully. "Dr. Roberts, your medical opinion." The doctor had been examining Aura's cracks with growing concern. "The evidence is compelling. These stress patterns shouldn't be happening. If what Martinez says is true, we could be facing a serious liability issue." "It's not just about liability," Jake said, his voice rising with frustration. "Look at them. They're suffering, and we can fix it. Isn't that enough?" The room fell silent. One by one, the board members looked at the Sylphids, really seeing their deteriorating condition for the first time. Finally, Director Chen spoke. "Engineering, begin implementing these environmental changes immediately. Dr. Roberts, work with Mr. Martinez to transfer all his maintenance protocols and data to medical. We need proper documentation of this situation." Jake felt relief wash over him. But the director wasn't finished. "And Mr. Martinez." "Yes, sir. Consider yourself temporarily reassigned to the medical bay as a specialist consultant. We'll need your expertise to fix this properly." The Sylphids began to glow brighter, their inner light shining through even the clouded areas. Aura touched Jake's shoulder gently. "Thank you," she whispered. Jake looked at his friends, then at his new medical bay credentials appearing on his datapad. Sometimes, he thought, the biggest barriers weren't technical problems. They were simply getting people to see what was right in front of them. 2 weeks after the emergency meeting, Maintenance Bay 3 had transformed completely. What started as Jake's makeshift cleaning station was now a proper medical facility, complete with specialized equipment and monitoring systems. Jake stood in the center of the bay, explaining the new setup to a group of medical staff. "The key was combining our existing technology with Sylphid needs," he said, pointing to a large chamber in the corner. "This is the environmental treatment pod. It maintains perfect conditions for crystal maintenance." Dr. Roberts, who had become one of Jake's strongest supporters, nodded approvingly. "And the automated cleaning system." Jake pressed a button, and the chamber hummed to life. "It uses sonic waves at exactly the right frequency, combined with our modified cleaning solution. The whole process takes about 30 minutes now, instead of the 2 hours it used to take me doing it by hand." Aura, who was helping with the demonstration, stepped into the chamber. The clouding on her surface had already begun to improve since the station's environmental changes, but some damage remained. "Watch this," Jake said proudly. As the medical staff observed, a fine mist filled the chamber, accompanied by a gentle humming sound. Where the mist touched Aura's surface, her crystal structure began to clear and strengthen visibly. "Remarkable," Dr. Roberts muttered, taking notes. "And you designed this yourself?" "With a lot of help from my friends," Jake said, smiling at Aura. "The Sylphids taught me everything about their needs. I just figured out how to meet those needs with human technology." His datapad chimed with an incoming message. It was the fifth one today from another space station requesting his designs. Word had spread quickly through the station network about the Sylphid solution. Martinez called Director Chen, walking into the bay. The Interstellar Medical Council just contacted us. They want to make your design the standard for all human stations hosting Sylphid residents. Jake blinked in surprise. All stations, but I'm not even a real doctor or engineer. No, the director agreed, but you are the only human who bothered to really understand the problem and find a solution. Sometimes that's more important than formal qualifications. The chamber completed its cycle, and Aura stepped out. Her crystalline form was clearer than it had been in months, the inner light shining brightly. Several hairline cracks had already begun to heal. "How do you feel?" Jake asked. "Like myself again," Aura chimed happily. "The sonic frequency is perfect, exactly like our cleaning chambers back home." More Sylphids began arriving for their treatments. The word had spread beyond their station, and now Sylphids from nearby stations were requesting transfers specifically to access the new facility. "We're going to need a bigger bay," Jake joked, but Director Chen looked serious. "Actually, we're converting the entire East Wing of Medical into a Sylphid health center. The council is sending funding." He handed Jake a new data pad. "They want you to oversee the expansion." Jake stared at the pad. His new title read, Chief of Xenobiological Maintenance and Health Systems. This is a lot of responsibility. Echo, who had just arrived for his treatment, laughed musically. "You went from cleaning us to designing medical equipment to running a health center. Not bad for a maintenance worker." "That's humans for you," Aura added proudly. "Give them a problem, and they'll find a way to solve it, even if they have to invent entirely new solutions." Jake looked around at what his simple act of helping one person had become. The bay was full of life and hope now. Medical staff learning new procedures, Sylphids getting treatment, and engineers studying his designs to improve them further. "You know what the best part is," he said to Aura as she helped him calibrate another treatment pod. "We didn't just fix the problem. We made it better than it was before." Aura's crystal form sparkled with amusement. "That's also very human of you, never settling for good enough when you can make something excellent instead." The new treatment pod hummed to life, adding its gentle song to the symphony of healing that filled the bay. 6 months after Jake received his first urgent maintenance request, Space Station Delta 9 had become famous throughout human and Sylphid space. The newly completed Sylphid Health Center took up an entire section of the medical bay, its specialized chambers humming day and night. Jake sat in his new office, looking through the observation window at the busy treatment area. 3 treatment pods were running, their soft blue light reflecting off the walls. On the wall behind his desk hung his original maintenance badge, next to his new medical credentials. Chief Martinez, his assistant, poked her head in. "The delegation from the Sylphid homeworld has arrived." Jake straightened his uniform. Still maintenance gray, but now with medical insignia. He'd refused to switch to the traditional white medical coat, saying, "I started this job in maintenance gray, and that's how I'll finish it." The Sylphid delegation sparkled as they entered, their crystal forms perfectly maintained and glowing with health. Leading them was a familiar face, Aura. Jake smiled broadly. Or should I say, Ambassador Aura now. Aura's crystal form chimed with laughter. "The title is new, but I'm still the same person who begged you for help 6 months ago." She turned to the delegation. "This is him, the human who changed everything." The lead delegate stepped forward, his crystal form shifting through rainbow colors, a sign of deep respect in Sylphid culture. "Chief Martinez, your innovation has helped thousands of our people living in human space. But more than that, you've created a bridge between our species." Jake felt his face grow warm. "I just tried to help someone in need. Anyone would have done the same." "But they didn't," Echo said, entering the office. As the station's official Sylphid human liaison, he worked closely with Jake. "You were the only one who listened, who cared enough to find a solution." Through the window, they watched as more sylphids emerged from the treatment pods, their forms glowing with health. The center now treated sylphids from 12 different stations, and the design was being replicated across human space. "We have a gift for you," Aura said, presenting a small crystal container. Inside was a shifting, glowing liquid. "This is from our sacred cleaning pools. We've never shared it with other species before." Jake carefully took the container. "I'm honored, but it's not just a gift," the delegate explained. "We want to combine this with your sonic technology. Imagine a treatment that uses both human innovation and sylphid traditional methods. A true joining of our people's knowledge." Jake's mind was already racing with possibilities. The harmonics of the crystal container could enhance the sonic frequencies, and if we adjust the environmental controls. Everyone laughed as he reached for his data pad, already starting to sketch out ideas. "Some things never change," Echo said fondly. "Still solving problems, even at your own celebration." Jake looked up, grinning. "Well, that's what got us here, isn't it? Seeing a problem and finding a way to fix it." He gestured around the office. "Look what happened just because someone asked for help, and someone else was willing to listen." Aura's crystal form glowed brightly. "You humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. But I think there's more to it. Sometimes understanding is the mother of innovation. You didn't just fix our problem. You took the time to understand us." Through the window, they could see new patients arriving. Sylphids who had traveled from distant stations, all because one maintenance worker had been willing to help with an unusual request. "So," Jake said, holding up the crystal container, "shall we see what other problems we can solve together?" The room filled with the musical sound of sylphid laughter mixing with human chuckles. In the treatment area beyond, the gentle hum of the pods continued their healing work, a constant reminder that sometimes the biggest breakthroughs start with the smallest acts of kindness. And somewhere on the station, a new maintenance worker was responding to an urgent request, wondering what adventures their next job might bring.